a year after that, in February, I was on a job site and I fainted. I saw that kinesiologist and he's like, look man, there's something really wrong with you. Yeah, they found a 140mm tumour in the back, inside my spine. As soon as I discharged, I just went back straight into that hole, and yeah, unfortunately I fell back into addiction. You know, I ended up stupidly taking drugs while I was in ICU, and I had a drug overdose in ICU.
Wow.
Nah, as an addict, you lie. You lie about everything. I'm actually getting goosebumps of how much I used to lie. The fact of the surgery was, you know, it's going to go for about 6 hours, no dramas. 9 hours later, I come out of surgery completely paralysed from my chest down, so T4. And from that day to today, I haven't had any physical recovery. He told me it was December. He's like, mate, you're paralysed. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you've got a spinal cord injury. I'm like, what? Well, I just sued the bloke in hospital, in court, and still, till this day, I have no idea why I'm in a wheelchair. Hey folks, my name's Lenny Redrose. I'm the Smiling Cripple. I've been in the chair for just over 6 years now, and it's been a massive, obviously, learning curve and a massive journey with some real good achievements, some massive lows, and some real funny moments as well.
You have an incredible Instagram, the Smiling Cripple. Firstly, just off the name, you're not inviting people to call you a cripple, right? It's just how you describe yourself.
100%, yeah. So it was something that, so I went to the trademark people, and I was, you know, wanted to trademark Smiling Cripples, and they came back with why? I said, I'm a cripple and I smile. Like, I want to change that, you know, the negative thing about people seeing, you know, cripple is someone that should be upset, sad, emotional, not able to do anything other than just, you know, be disabled. And I was like, no, I really want to change it, and, you know, just put the smiling in front of it, which is something that I do non-stop. So I was like, I think it was just perfect for that.
Just get straight into it. I hate the word cripple. I got bullied by getting called a cripple. Do you think by giving, and I like, mate, you can call yourself whatever you want, and I love this. And this is really funny, interesting thing to get around disability, because there's some words people really own, like cripple, and some people might not like it. Do you think you're kind of inviting people to call everybody cripples because you say it, or do you think you have the right to say own it because it's your disability, but that doesn't give everyone the right to say it? How do you distinguish between that?
I think it's individual, because in the end of the day, if someone, let's say, is a redhead, you go call them a ranger, that might take offence, they might not. But if it's something that they do themselves, like for instance, I do that about myself, and I don't mind, not that a random person will say, hey, cripple, how you going? It's just more amongst my friends or people around, like not to fear the word or to look at it in a negative way, that I'm okay with that, and I find that I'm smiling, and just, yeah, I guess the the smiling cripple part comes in there. But it's all, I think it's very individual, just like anything else in this world that we do.
6 years ago,
Yep.
you're involved in an accident?
Surgery.
Yeah. So how did you need surgery? You had lower back pain?
Correct, yeah. So in the Army 2014, while I was serving, I had chest pain radiating to the back, and I really didn't know what it was. And my boss at the time was like, you know, what happened? Did you know, hurt yourself or whatnot? I said, nah, man, like every time I sneeze and cough, it absolutely kills me. And I'd cracked a rib playing soccer years and years earlier. So I went and had some scans done, and then nothing was really found in those scans. And roughly about a year later, I discharged. And then a year after that, in February, I was on a job site and I fainted. And the pain started to come back slowly. And, you know, it just got progressively worse. But within that period, I was just like, I went and saw like a chiropractor, I went and saw naturopaths, I went and saw kinesiologists, and it was, yeah, nothing was really found until I saw that kinesiologist, and he's like, look, man, there's something really wrong with you. And at that point, I was abusing drugs. I was an ex-addict at the time. I was like, oh, maybe it's the drugs. He's like, mate, this is not drug related. This is something a bit more severe and internal. I was like, oh, okay, guys, you need to go and get an MRI. I was like, no dramas. So, you know, it took me a few days to get an MRI, but by the end of it, yeah, they found a 140mm tumour in the back, inside my spine.
I mean, you're talking to the expert of spinal tumours, Dylan Orcott.
Yeah. What how does being in the army and being an ice excuse me, how does being in the army and being an ice addict coexist? And what was
No,
that?
it
What was
doesn't.
that
And
journey
it
like?
was it was for that period that I was in defence. Obviously, that wasn't happening. It was just I discharged and I just fell back into my old ways of just I struggled with drugs beforehand. I joined, it served its purpose. I got clean. I stayed really healthy, positive. I was working hard. I was on overseas trips. Life was fantastic. As soon as I discharged, I just went back straight into that hole. And yeah, unfortunately, I fell back into addiction.
Were you forced to discharge? Did you choose the discharge? Why did you make that choice to exit the army?
My time was up, so it was a matter of just it was either go up north to Darwin and do my next post in there, or was get out. And I was like, you know what, I'd rather just get out. And
Did you think your sobriety of 12 months, however long you were in the service for, was going to be enough to get you on the right path? Did you fear once you discharged the service clean and sober at that time that you were going to relapse into using drugs?
honestly, what I've realised now that I've been clean for 4 years is I was running from the situation. I was never actually trying to understand why I was an addict prior. It was, once I was back in my own world, freedom, I guess, not being controlled by, or not controlled, but being in the army or military. When I got back into the normal world, let's say, it was like, it just slipped back into it.
We ask about the drugs because there's a question that I think Dylan and I, chatting about this before the interview, are really interested in is, and we'll of course go back onto the surgery, but you had to have pain medication, morphine, endone, all of these. I'm just guessing, but there would have had to be medications as someone who's an addict post surgery just to deal with the pain, let alone antibiotics, all of that stuff.
Yep.
So how is that for you? Like, how do you deal as an addict being given drugs, and how does our medical system handle that? Do you do it under supervision? Like, how does that work?
Medication?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously before I even had my surgery, I had told my surgeon that I was an ice addict. I told I told everybody, whoever I had to speak to pre-surgery, I told about my addiction. And then once I got out of surgery, it was like ketamine, morphine, IV, and then all the other tablets that we were taking. And I ended up stupidly taking drugs while I was in ICU, and I had a drug overdose in ICU.
Wow.
And obviously that wasn't with knowing of the hospital or the doctors, which obviously came out at the end of it. But yeah, it was once I was on the prescriptions and I discharged from hospital and rehab and all that, it was a fact of I want to get clean. I want to get off all this stuff, which is what I've been like. It took me 3.5 years to get off Lyrica. I was on like 600 milligrams a day with 600 milligrams of tapentadol, which is like a tablet morphine, which is an extremely high dose. But yeah, it took me 3.5 years to get off the Lyrica and pretty much off the tapentadol as well.
I don't think we've ever spoken to someone who's been a drug addict with disability. It's interesting because medication is part of Dylan's every day.
Yeah, 100%.
When did you learn to be so upfront, even talking to your doctors at that point about your addiction? Was that a journey over time, or because I know, let's just say we know each other, we're mates, so you're a pretty upfront guy, which we like about you. So were you always like that through the process of being an addict, or did that take time to progress
As
out?
an addict, you lie. You lie about everything. As it like I'm actually getting goosebumps of how much I used to lie. I would lie. The sky's purple, and I'll make you believe that the sky's purple. I was you just lie as an addict. But the thing with me, I've got ADHD, pretty severe ADHD. So when I would, and ice was my addiction. When I do ice, I actually used to like slow down and calm down. So people were like, "Oh, see now you're sober." I'm like, "Mate, I'm high as a kite." You wouldn't pick when I'm on drugs or off drugs. It was more when I would take when I drink alcohol, I'd become like a raging lunatic, and then the drugs would calm me down. So my thing to myself was when I started doing the like in the chair. So for a year and a half, 2 years, I still used while I was in the chair, and as that started to come to a change, I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like I'm not getting better. My bowel routine, I was sitting on a toilet for 5 or 6 hours. And that's not easy, you know what I mean? Like that's mind-numbing. So then it was a fact of I made this clear-cut choice in my own mind. I said, no more lying, regardless of what it's going to do. If it's going to hurt you, him, that person, too bad. You've done the dirt. Now you got to deal with it. And that was just something that I I really wanted to do. I hated lying.
Thanks for being thanks for being so vulnerable and open about this stuff, mate. Because I know it's obviously hard to talk about it. So when you went into that, I know we can't talk holistically about the surgery and all that as much as you can. So you realized that it wasn't to do with your addiction and coming off the drugs, that the pain that you were feeling. So talk us through the process of deciding to have an operation and what happened to the extent that you're allowed to say it.
Yeah. So look, with my surgery, honestly, I was when I got there, and my surgeon called me through, and I walked in, and he's like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "I'm Lenny." He's like, "Mate, you shouldn't be walking." I'm like, "I've illegally parked my car. Can we hurry up?" Like I wasn't taking anything serious. And then the way he explained it was, quite straightforward. And I did ask for other avenues other than surgery, and they were spoken about. However, he said it's not really something that's proven. Surgery is the way to go. All right, no problem. He's like, we've got to operate tomorrow. I said, look, I'm involved in a business. I've got guys that work for me. I can't go under tomorrow. I need a couple of days. He's like, let's do Monday. No worries. So, and then the fact of the surgery was, it's going to go for about 6 hours, and, it should be, like I said, straightforward. No dramas. 9 hours later, I come out of surgery completely paralysed from my chest down, so T4. And from that day to today, I haven't had any physical recovery. Obviously, mental, all the rest of that's good. But yeah, in the surgery,
But as in like physiotherapy or something, you haven't felt any more feeling or sensation in your legs or anything?
Probably actually gotten worse. Like the spasms have gotten worse. The pain's probably gotten worse as well. As I'm not on any of the pain meds anymore. But yeah, there's no physical recovery from. And I spent a lot of time at the next step doing a lot of standing stuff and all, which is good for the brain. Really, really good for the brain. It's good for the body as well to be able to stand and put pressure through your legs, and and do some core workouts that you don't get to do on your own. But yeah, back to the surgery thing. It was, as things kind of progressed post surgery, and we were asking questions to the surgeon, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, can you type into Google what's happened so I can find somebody else other side of the world, what they did, to walk, or what they didn't eat, or what they should have ate, or all those little things that you try and do, to walk again. And then from that appointment that we had, my dad's like, mate, there's something not right here. Like, you walked in and you've come out and you've got no recovery. It's, 8-9 months post-surgery now. And then, yeah, from there we were able to go and get some advice from other surgeons. And then we found out that, yeah, he wasn't being as honest as he says he was being. And from there we were able to get, a whole lot of evidence against him. The radiologist, she actually missed the tumour in my scans that were in the MRI 2014. So the tumour's actually visible there, but she, for whatever reason, didn't actually see it.
Right. So 2014 was when it could have been seen, but when did you get surgery?
2016.
So 2 years of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The doctor's name wasn't Dr. Nick Riviera from The Simpsons, was it, by any chance?
No, it wasn't.
So 6 years in a chair, how long did it take to come to terms? It's always an interesting question of people, like Dylan's always been a guy who goes, don't go and learn to walk, just,
Yeah, definitely.
Dylan talks about loves the penguin walk. It's like, I'm ended up waiting for you at the end of the hallway. How long did it take for you to come to the realisation that, chair is life? Or not life, that's not fair, but chair is transport.
Yeah. So honestly, it was 13 months post-surgery when I saw one of the surgeons who was giving me a second opinion, and I literally blanked out the surgeon's name and the hospital's name. I said, here, read this and tell me if it's what I've got. And my discharge report didn't describe this. So I heard from him. He told me it was December. He's like, mate, you're paralysed. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you've got spinal cord injury. I'm like, what? And that was the first time. And it was probably a really, really good day because, leading up to that, you're trying to find a cure. What's wrong with me? What's this? What's that? And it was a big day in my mental recovery to start. So yeah, probably around 13 months type thing.
What was the dude saying to you for 13 months about what was going on?
Was he like giving hope of, a chance of rehabilitation?
Nah, nothing at all.
But he hadn't used the term specifically paralysed. Is that
Who,
right?
my surgeon or
the first surgeon?
Nah, never.
The first guy, because you had 13 months where you didn't know.
Yeah, I just sued the bloke in hospital, in court, and still till this day I have no idea why I'm in a wheelchair.
Wild.
What?
Yeah, we've compensated you. However, we don't take ownership of what's happened.
So have you been did you get compensated, or is that in
Yeah,
the process?
I did. Yeah.
Milky bars are on Lenny.
Yeah.
We had Jimmy Jan on a couple of months back. He was in a skiing accident, and he spoke about if he could go back, he would, to not having a spinal cord injury from his accident on the slopes. It had been when we recorded the interview, like literally just less than a year. And the reason that he said, he's like, it's too close for me. Like, I know I've lived 22 or 23 years of my life able-bodied, a year in my chair. I'd go back. If posed with that same question, would you go back to being able-bodied Lenny? And if not, how long did it take you? Because that process.
Yeah. Okay. So I look at my life as a walker, and I was a drug addict for most of it. I've got control of my mind, which I never had as a walker. So for me, I wouldn't take it away. Yeah, I've learned so much more about myself and about life and about gratitude, appreciation, about other people, even blind disabilities that you don't see. So much more that I look at people and understand and listen to them instead of saying, oh, yeah, judgment, she's this or he's that. We'll be like, oh, you know what, they might be going through something. I definitely, I really do appreciate my situation in life and how I get to even impact others and get, people reach out as it would do to Dylan with yourself as well, saying, hey, mate, I really appreciate the last post you did because, what you said about, let's say, your addiction, I'm a recovering addict or I'm an addict, but I just don't have the balls to say what you say. So no, I wouldn't have ever got that as a walker where now, like I said, I really appreciate my life. I really appreciate my abilities, what I can do. I don't look at what I can't do because you can't do it. What's the point?
I just got a little goosebump, man. That's nice.
And you've got a very talented, beautiful future wife these days, which we'll get into in a minute.
Take it easy.
Hey, mates. Hey, both the boys are batting. Both the boys are batting well above their average, aren't we?
Of course.
But mate, and I think one cool thing about your journey as you, and you've been very modest here, like Angus, do you know who Patrick Cripps is?
Yes, the captain of the Carlton Blues and Brownlow medalist.
Yeah, well, you're pretty much sitting next to the Patrick Cripps of Australian wheelchair football. You are. Did you know that, mate?
I was unaware. I knew you won. I watched your Invictus Games gold medal win.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
What did it mean for you to find that, I guess, purpose through sport?
Yeah, look, so Marcus Sander, which you might know as well, Muzz, he was my mentor at when I was at Caulfield Rehab. And so once I discharged and he's like, hey, there's wheelchair footy starting up, do you want to get amongst it? Because I'd played soccer at a pretty high level earlier on in life. And I was like, yeah, cool. So so it was tryouts, over a 3-week period. And I missed the first one because I was on a bender. And then the second one because I was on a bender. And he's rung me up and he's like, where the FA? I'm like, oh, mate, you wouldn't believe it. He goes, I don't give a shit. Because you told me you're coming, come, otherwise F off. And I was like, oh, yeah, I promise I'll be there next week. And that was the second last time I used. So I played my footy season and I was shambles. I was slow. I never played footy. I've never handballed a footy. It was always soccer. I'm a wog. So then, so footy was the season was coming up to an end. And where I was training at the gym, I told those guys same thing. I'm very open. This is my history. I'm starting to feel the itch. Can we put something in place so that way I've got something to work towards after the footy season? They're like, yeah, no problem. Let's do a Spartan race. I'm like, done. They go, do you know what it is? I go, I don't care. We're doing it. However, footy season finished. Boom, I went on a bender, and that was the last time. And it was just once it happened, I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then from there, it was, and then Invictus was brought up. And as we know, the last couple of years, because of COVID, everything just got, backtracked. And it was like, is this actually going to happen? And we got there this year. But without...
Sorry, Lenny, what is Invictus? Just for people who don't know.
Yeah, so Invictus is for veterans and current serving members of the military from 20 nations now, I think 21 nations. So Prince Harry, he started the games on the back of, or with the concept of Warrior Games, which is something held in America and Canada. And it's a, let's say a mini Paralympics, to obviously not an elite level, but it's an opportunity for people to recover through sport.
So specific to servicemen and women.
Correct. Yeah. So it's only military personnel can enter, and I didn't realize when I was at the games this year, so many of those people are Paralympians. I never realized world champions at certain sports. I was like, far out, there's so many people from military that actually go on and do a whole lot more in sport than you'd actually think.
Yeah, it's amazing. Talking about your mentor, Marcus.
Yep.
We can see that click was important to you.
Yep.
Do you think for someone to have a mentor, you need to have respect for that person? What was it about Marcus that made you want to change? It's like I was terrible at maths because I never applied myself.
Yep.
I had one teacher in year 10, Mr. Capishana, who I loved, and I did not ever want him to see me get like a B.
Yeah.
So I was an A+ student for that year only because I applied myself because he was important to me.
Yep.
What is it about Marcus that made you do a full 180 on your life and get back on this track that you're now on?
Muzz is like, and I can't swear, but 0 Fs.
Okay.
There's no sugarcoating anything. It's just straight to the point. And I think at that point in my life, that's what I needed because I was always able to hide my addiction because of my ADHD until I became really, really, really messed up. But for most of the period, I could hide it. But when with him, and I told him straight up, he was like, and he was Victoria Police, Australian Federal Police, and an Air Marshal for 38 years.
Right.
So complete opposite side of the law where. And when we got talking, and I was talking about my military career and things I had done, and he's talking about his career, and I was like, something that we really. We connected really well, and me being me, I'm very inquisitive. Oh, how do you tie your shoes up? How do you do this? How do you do that? He's like, mate, slow down. You just go into hospital. It's like one thing at a time. I'm like, yeah, but I want to know. I'm like, my mind's going and going. So we spoke a lot. He was very open with me, and he's a tough man. I break down and cry all the time. I'm not opposed to crying. It doesn't, I'm happy to have that emotion. And I'll do that in front of him and he'll be all right with it, and it allowed me to be this new me. But yeah, Marcus as absolute champion.
Love it.
Gus, I've actually never asked this. Why did you pick me to be your mentor? Gus? Angus? Why did you choose me?
Look, I mean, the day's long. There's still time.
You're too busy, mate.
Maybe that's my 2023 New Year's resolution. I'll reach out in that respect.
Yeah, man, I'm always there for you. All right, you know that. You call me anytime. You got my number.
Thanks, bro. You've got your mentor, Muzz.
Yep.
You've also got your fiancée, who we briefly mentioned.
Yep, Alicia.
Your Instagram proposal video is very, very funny. I'll let you paint the picture of what the video is, and then can you just tell me what did you hoped would happen?
All right, so I had rung Alicia's parents during the week saying, hey, I want to propose to Alicia. Can I take you guys out for dinner? So we were meant to go to dinner the week after. And then on Saturday, we're going to Flight Facilities concert with a few friends. And my best mate, Musti, the week before, we went for a walk before his game and he scored a goal. And he's like, every week we're doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, sweet, no worries, mate. So we've gone for a walk and I was like, you know what? I'm going to propose today. He's like, excuse me? And I had literally just set on my court case the day before. So on the Friday and this is the Saturday. I was like, it's perfect timing. He was like, you can't just, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do it, man. So I've rung Leisha's mum saying, hey, Rose, I'm going to propose. And she's like, Lenny, stop fooling around. I'm like, no, I'm being serious. She's like, Lenny, you don't even have a ring. I'm like, I've had the ring for like 4 weeks. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I can't believe you're actually going to do it. I'm like, 100%. So I've rung, our friends that were coming over, because we're all going to have like an early dinner, late lunch type thing and then go to the concert. And I've rung Bianca. I'm like, hey, look, and I was like, don't make a big deal. I go, I'm going to propose to Alicia. She's like, what do you mean? I go, when you come over, just don't act sus, but I need you to record it. She's like, all right, cool. So I'm out the front watering the lawn and B rocks up. She goes inside and she left her car running. I'm like, oi, your car's still on. She's like, oh, shit,
I'm
sorry.
nervous.
Yeah. But throughout the day, I was in my active wear and I was like, I hopped on the couch to get on my knee and it was fine every single time it worked.
Oh, you practiced getting on one knee. That makes the video funnier.
Yeah, so I kept doing that. And then anyway, so obviously I got changed, did my hair, got ready. And the nerves started kicking in. So we've all finished eating. And I'm like, Leash, the actual video goes for about 5 minutes. Oh. I was calling her over for that long. And she's like, what do you want? Just leave me alone. I'm trying to get ready. I'm like, babe, just hurry up. I need to do something. And I'm like, on the couch, and then she's come over, and I'm trying to get on my knee and I start spasming. So I've just like buckled and just don't look like I'm in a very comfortable position. And I'm just like, will you marry me? She's like, what? Not the answer I was looking for. She's like, no. I was like, oh my God, he's saying what?
Because I didn't know whether it was going to be that moment of, you know, you trying to get on one knee and that being like this moment, or it's like you just knew you were never going to be able on one knee, and it's just like that's the humor in it. I didn't. Funny. It's funnier now, I think.
100%.
And for people who are watching this on Instagram and YouTube, we'll put the video here so you can check it out. But I think it's even funnier now with the context that you tried to get on one knee, because that's really fun.
Yeah,
you practiced it.
I practiced. I was on YouTube. I'm like, guy in a wheelchair proposing on one knee. It was like every guy's like, kind of just giving him in. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to try and get on my knee. And then when I did it, or when I tried to do it, it was just like, no, it's a big fail.
I'm glad she said yes, but imagine trying to get on one knee, falling over, and then saying no. That would have been real viral. That would have.
Just leave me here.
Would have been good for the TikTok though.
Would have been up on TikTok, yeah. Hey, mate, why Lish? Why is she the one?
So during the lockdowns, I was on DK's podcast. And my cousin,
Who's DK?
DK's my trainer, my PT, absolute weapon.
Also, just text me.
Our trainer. Yeah, Danny. His name's Danny Cann. He's a beautiful man, and we did some work together. And it's so awesome that he's getting around other people with disability, isn't it, Len?
Yeah, 100%. He knows so much. He is a weapon in like knowing, especially our big thing is shoulders. He understands so much about shoulders, how to get the
transfers, stuff like that. So important, triceps.
It's funny, like the first time that we started, like when Dylan and I trained, to where I like the memories always come up as like I couldn't even transfer to a bench. Well, now it's like DK's like, hang on, man, let me just. I'm like, it's all good, man. I can do it myself. It's all right. But yeah, no, DK's an absolute weapon, and he's been massively important in my growth as a physically, being able to do what I do with him and having the endurance and the strength to, do a clean transfer at the end of a long day has been, it's been massive. But yeah, so DK's podcast and my cousin's wife Rachel and Alicia are mates. So Rachel shared the podcast on her story, and Alicia's reached out saying, "Hey, look, we don't know each other. We've got a mutual friend in Rachel. I just want to say, thank you for posting, or thank you for your Instagram." Because everything that you put out, has really given me a slap in the face that I needed. And then my response was, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you? I go, let's go for a walk so I can kick you in the ass. And then I said, just so my legs don't work, so I won't actually be kicking you. And then she's like, oh my God, you're funny or something like that. And it's literally that where like early days she would forget me in the car. So I'll transfer.
Just walk off the coals and then turn around. You're like, oh yeah,
hello. It'd be like, I've transferred in and she's got to put the chair in the boot, and she comes and buckles in. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm like the wheelchair babe. She's like, oh, sorry. And it's that. Like she's never ever made me feel extra special because I'm in a wheelchair, and she hasn't, she hasn't made a big deal about anything. She just treats me as you should be treated, as just as Lenny. No special treatment. Like if I don't ask for help, she's not going to help me. She's like, you need to use your voice. If you're tired and sore, you need to say, hey, Liz, can I have a hand? For that, it's been, her family's really good. Everything's just, everything happened really organically, and it's grown to be that.
We spoke about this before the podcast, so I know you're comfortable talking about this, but, and you've already mentioned that you've T4, so you don't have feeling below there. When it comes to starting a family, was that something, Walker, Lenny was interested in? Is it something you're interested in as we sit here today? And is it something that your partner wants as well? Was that a discussion you had?
Yeah, so prior to the chair, obviously, with the drugs and whatnot, I always thought I would have kids, but I was never obviously in a right frame of mind to actually bring up a child in that state of mind. And then Leash was always kind of iffy about having children. And then once we got together, it was something that we both spoke about. We're like, we're going to do this? She's like, yeah, let's do it. And then she's like, why don't you, why haven't you said you want to have kids? I'm like, babe, it's something for you and I. I don't want to put all this pressure on you, and then you feel like you have to do it because I'm saying it. I go, I know I want kids. If you know you want kids, then it's going to come up. So it's perfect timing. Like we just started our IVF journey. We've got a good amount of embryos, and we just got our genetic testing back yesterday that they're all good. Yeah. So yeah, we're in a good boat at the moment.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
That's sick. Thank you.
Yeah.
How good's technology that you can actually do that
man,
these
we're
days?
so
You
lucky.
know,
We're so lucky.
I might have to use idea for my night, not sure, but yeah, same thing. Like, and even just it's unfortunately one thing that needs to come down is the cost, isn't it, brother?
Yeah, it's just come on the PBS, man.
People, but yeah, you can. That's what I mean. It's great now that there's more opportunities for all people with all kinds of disabilities to get around it. How are you feeling about being a dad? Are you worried about being a dad in a wheelchair, or do you just?
Yeah, so Alicia's got so I've got nieces, but my first niece is 22. So I was like 15, 16 when she was born, and obviously I was a kid myself, so I didn't really see and understand like, you know, her growth. And then my other two nieces, I was away in the army, so I never actually saw, you know, the personality grow from the little bub, you know, to a younger person. Where with her nieces, her nephews, sorry, I've seen them grow up in the last couple of years, and you see like Luca, the eldest nephew, you know, from crawling to walking, and then, you know, he sees the wheelchair and he starts pushing me around town. He's like, come on, Lenny, push. So I've seen like, and having seen, like, I'm getting goosebumps again. And having seen that, I was just like, you know, I actually cannot wait to have kids. I cannot wait to have kids. And I just keep looking around, seeing other kids and whatnot. It's just, I don't know, it just fills me up with so much joy.
It's magical.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, I don't want to, one of the hardest things about being a parent is changing a bad diaper. And
I change my own all the time. It's fine.
you can just do them both at the same time.
That's all good.
Brilliant.
More Alicia now.
I was going to say, I remember Jamin Hudson, who's a photographer in Perth. I remember he's like, one of the things is I can't reach the change table. It's like sort of a blessing.
Just quickly, wheelchair AFL, how the hell do you play that? Give us the rules and the breakdown, because I want to promote that, because there would be that many people listening and go, wheelchair AFL, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So wheelchair footy is it's based on a basketball court. So you got 5 aside. You got goals as normal. So a hand pass is essentially a kick, so it's a mark, and then an underarm throw is a handball, so it's a play on.
Oh.
You play with the netball structure as, you know, you can only play in your 2/3, as a centre can go anywhere. The defenders go, you know, the front third, and then the forwards go in the the back third, sorry. Look, the sport, and I'm going to be completely honest here, I don't feel the sport's growing enough. I don't, I'm not a fan of people without an injury playing the sport, because it keeps out the people with injuries playing.
Oh, so you're saying there's able-bodied people who are playing the sport?
Yeah, and I like, and you know, it's, and this is something that, this is my opinion.
Hot take.
Yeah, this is my opinion. I just feel like I've spoken to so many other young kids that haven't gone out to play the sport because they're afraid they won't get a bit of a run. You know, the wheelchair footy had set up an open day with AFL at the MCG, so every club with the seniors as well, and they set up the wheelchair footy on grass. And it's like, come on, guys, which person in a wheelchair likes to go on grass to play a sport? So you could have put down some matting. I just feel there's too many ticking the boxes. Oh, yeah, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. We're not actually thinking about what they're doing to make things not easier, but things more accessible for us to do. Because trying to push around, like I've done a Spartan race in a chair built for Spartan race, and it's bloody hard, let alone in a wheelchair or in a footy chair as well, which you've got 6 wheels touching grass. It's you know, it's very difficult.
Okay, interesting. That's a hot take. I didn't know that also that I could jump in a chair and play against you either.
100%, man.
Okay.
But do you know why it starts like that, Gus? Just because they need more numbers initially. So like wheelchair basketball, when I started, you play like local comp alone. Everybody people play just to create numbers. But once it reaches a tipping point where there's enough players, I'm with you, Len, you can then have purely people with disability. And it looks like we're at that tipping point pretty soon. Is that right? Because there's enough
there,
teams,
man.
enough players.
Yeah, it's there. Like I left the game to try and improve my basketball, because I'm still training for it. I would love to make like the National League for basketball, and then obviously try and get the Paralympics or the World Championships. In, you know, if it's possible, like I train hard. I do a lot that I can. If I can't get the training at the VIS at 6 a.m, which is a 5 a.m. wake up, and then I go there on a full bow. Hopefully I don't, you know, have a bow accident and shit myself while I'm there. But these are the sacrifices that I make, you know, to try and get there. And it was just one of those things where I had to stop footy for that purpose.
All right, let's get into the bowl of uncomfortable. Lenny, you know what the bowl is?
No.
it is a question that gets sent to us by listeners or
Wait, Lenny, you know what the bowl is? No. That's great. Big fan of the podcast. Love it.
how many of our 60 episodes you got to? Oh, all of them, just not the end.
Normally it cuts out.
This is an anonymous question from Facebook. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe, guys. Lenny, if a young person with disability were to label you a role model, would you feel comfortable with that title, seeing as your story involves illegal activity?
Yes, of course, because everyone, just because my past is a part of me doesn't mean that you can't improve and change. I was always not judged. I'll say I was judgmental in the past about other people because I was, doing the wrong thing. But you know what? You can't pick to be an addict. It's something that, unfortunately, it just does happen over time. And I wasn't in control of what happened with my addiction. I definitely own my addiction. But you know what? When you can see the change in someone, that's when you know what's possible, and that's when you can be a role model, because not everybody has, a silver spoon to be brought up with. So, no, definitely. I think a role model is anyone that can be positive and impact on that person, whoever they're trying to role model.
Nice.
This kind of goes into my bowl of uncomfortable, which was sent through by a listener. When you first became disabled, did you feel in that moment that was karma and deserved because of the bad things you were doing in your able-bodied life?
You know what? I was always, why me? And then it got to a point when I started to get a little bit more spiritual and started thinking about what's happened. And for me, in everything that happens, like for me to get my disability was the radiologist, 2014, she missed the tumour. My surgeon had multiple different options and he chose the one that caused the paraplegia. And then it was like, you know what, I cheated on my ex-girlfriend. I lied. So then it was like, you know what, the universe was like, we're going to take a few things away from you and let's see how you take the second opportunity. And it was just like, you know what, it is that karma, and it's, what you make about it. You can go become sour and, blame, or you can make the thing a positive and, smile about it.
What a great attitude. And I think you answered the question yourself best. You learned a lot of lessons, and you wouldn't take back the person who sits in the chair, and we wouldn't have you any other way in this podcast, mate. It's been enlightening. It's been awesome, and thank you so much for the vulnerability is huge to come onto a platform like ours and to speak so openly about your addiction and also your mistakes.
Yep,
that's really important to learn, because if you got to learn from your own mistakes, but sometimes people get the opportunity to learn from others. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Good on you, Lan. And I do know a Paralympic basketball gold medalist. If you need any tips, I'll be able to help you out.
That's him, by the way, if you didn't know.
Well, if you're not traveling, mate, let's do it.